Hi, my name is Josh, and this is the second video I'm making this year about the critical drinker.
Hi, Josh.
It all started when YouTube recommended this video to me and I clicked on it at lightning speed. Now I know, a critical drinker video complaining about Christopher Nolan is the most chemically pure form of rage bait humanly possible for me. Last year I made an hour-long video discussing my deep appreciation for this man's filmography. You could safely call me a fan. I didn't want to make an entire video reacting to this reaction to the trailer for the Odyssey, but oh my god, every single take in this video is hot garbage. This has spread far beyond just the drinker. For some reason, this trailer brought the internet's entire anti-woke brigade out of the woodwork, up to and including the chieftain himself, Elon Musk. But while it doesn't cover every claim that's being made, I think the drinker's video provides a useful framework to sort of sort through all this bullshit. So let's get started. We're gonna jump around this video, but I'll link the original in the description so you can experience the idiocy the way it was intended. The biggest source of backlash surrounding this movie right now is the cast. The drinker makes it very clear immediately that he's not a fan of some of these choices.
Lupita Nyong'o is widely rumoured to be playing the Greek princess Helen of Troy, which if it turns out to be true would make about as much sense as Papa Asuido playing Severus Snape, but hey, what can I say?
Yeah, the drinker and everyone else is getting weirdly uppity about Lupita Nyong'o playing Helen of Troy. I love how big a deal the internet is making over this casting, given that Helen of Troy plays such a tiny role in the Odyssey. She's in like one scene, but you think that the entire movie hinges on her character the way that all of Twitter is melting down over it.
That is a blinding bit of casting, man. Wow.
The face that launched 1,000 ships.
Yeah,
Not only is she not Greek, she's subjectively, I guess, but she's not the best looker.
Please articulate the reason why she can't be Helen of Troy. Because Helen wasn't black? Helen of Troy probably did not fucking exist, my man. You're all worked up because she wasn't black in real life. Brother, she was born when Zeus fucked her mom in the form of a swan. Should they have hired a half-swan woman to play her? I bet these guys didn't even hire a real Cyclops to play Polyphemus. But like a lot of people are talking about this, insisting that not casting a Greek woman as Helen of Troy is actually anti-Greek racism. But I love the same cohort of people comparing this movie to Troy, the 2004 movie, where Diane Kruger plays Helen of Troy. I'm gonna just do a quick Google search here. Yeah, wow, look at that, she's German. The coolest bit of casting here that I feel like is just flying completely under the radar with all this weird backlash is that Lupita Nyong'o is actually playing two characters. She's playing Helen and her sister, Clytemnestra. I think the one sequence she's gonna be in where Telemachus goes to Menelaus' palace to try to find information about where his dad went, it's gonna be very interesting. Helen and Clytemnestra have a very different relationship with their husbands. Helen has a lot of regret over all the things that have been done in her name. If you get past the race of the character, I think that this is going to be pretty intriguing, and I think Lupita Nyong'o is the kind of actress who can pull off this kind of like conflicted, regretful Helen. Now, the drinker doesn't say anything openly racist about Lupita Nyong'o. He's got a 2.5 million sub YouTube platform that he would probably like to keep, but scroll down to the comments section and you will get flashbanged immediately. It's bad down there. They're not even trying to hide the ball.
But speaking of overexposed actors that we could all use a break from, Zendaya is in this movie as Athena, the goddess of wisdom.
Why? Like, genuinely what? I'm racking my brain for anything that makes Zendaya playing Athena laughable on its face, and like, no.
I have never seen a single Zendaya performance in my life and thought, oh my god, she absolutely carried this movie.
Honestly, I do agree that Zendaya's big blockbuster performances are some of her least remarkable, but the drinker isn't gonna watch Challengers. The drinker isn't gonna go see the drama. If you need proof that Zendaya can act, please go watch the drama. It is incredible. I'm so excited to rewatch that at the end of the year. That might just be one of the best movies I've ever seen, and Zendaya absolutely carries that movie. Given how talented she is, when I heard that she was playing Athena, I was super intrigued. It's a very different role than what she usually gets to play, and I'm kind of excited to see it. Okay, but the funniest casting backlash of all, Elliot Page. Conservative social media is currently on fire right now with the breaking news that Elliot Page will be playing Achilles. But how? Achilles is this titan of rippling muscles. How could this tiny man possibly do justice to the role? This clearly shows how woke Christopher Nolan has become, and wait, what was that? Nobody ever said he was playing Achilles. Like, that was never announced by Nolan or Universal or anyone associated with the movie. Yeah, as best as I can tell, this breaking news was uncovered by noted journalist, some fucking guy on Twitter. There has literally been no official mention of who Elliot Page is playing, and we're still throwing full tantrums out here. The best guess that we have seems to be that he's playing Elpenor, my favorite character from Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
I have met some treacherous people. None of them compare to Elpenor.
Elpenor is the youngest member of Odysseus' crew who dies on Circe's island, and then later in the poem, when Odysseus goes to Hades, Elpenor is the first spirit that greets him, and he asks Odysseus to take his body back and bury his remains in his armor and everything. It's kind of a really cool scene. These really dark scenes in the trailer with all this black soil seem to be the ones that are set in Hades, and there's a few frames of a ghost-looking dude who kind of looks like Elliot Page. If I were to go for a Hail Mary and speculate on a more impactful character that Elliot Page could play really well, Hermes, dude. I have no evidence for this claim. I just think it would be cool. I correctly predicted in my video last year that Robert Pattinson would be playing Antinous before that was officially revealed. I just want that noted for the record. But evidence? Corroboration? This is war, goddammit. Culture war. We don't have time for such things. This is a news anchor on Newsmax, a company that purports to tell the news. Absolutely in shambles because the left continues to replace all his big buff boys with spindly twinks.
And I'm not kidding when I say any of this. But the role of Achilles will reportedly be played by Elliot Page. Looks like a guy, formerly Ellen Page. And Elliot will now be playing the role of Achilles in this new movie. Achilles, who is described throughout history as being a superhuman warrior, deadly on the battlefield. He even defeated Hector of Troy. That's the person that's going to be playing the greatest warrior in history, because to the left, that is normal. That's okay. And to top it all off, playing Helen of Troy.
Hypocrisy will never not piss me off. We're getting all these diatribes about how the left doesn't care about truth, but are you getting the impression that these dickheads really care about that? They fully invented a story to get mad about. How do they know it's real? Because all their Twitter pals wouldn't be foaming at the mouth over nothing, right? Guys, if someone handed me $20 every time I said the word woke, I would say it a lot more. Just something to think about. I feel like in all this discussion of the cast, the one person that nobody is mentioning is Samantha Morton, who's going to be playing Circe. I've never seen Samantha Morton in anything, but Circe is such a sick character and has the potential to like steal the whole movie, I feel like. If she does it right, we're going to start seeing Samantha Morton in literally everything. The Drinker's critique then moves from the cast to the director himself, Christopher Nolan.
And this all brings me back to the man at the center of all of this. Christopher Nolan, the director and writer. Now, I know the man has a fan base so rabidly loyal that they make Snyder Bros look like fucking normies.
I hate to live up to the stereotype, but yeah, okay. That's fair. You got me.
And with Odyssey, it's like he's saying, see, there's more to me than sci-fi thrillers and slightly overrated superhero movies.
Slightly overrated superhero movies? Homie, no! Batman Begins was the seed of a genre that is still dominating the big and small screens. Fully an entire category of movies that would not exist, or at least not in the same way, without that movie. The Dark Knight is genuinely a masterpiece. From a screenplay perspective, that is like the holy grail of an action movie where every scene just propels you into the next one. Not to even mention the astoundingly beautiful soundtrack and iconic portrayal of the Joker, like probably the most culturally impactful iteration of that character. The Dark Knight Rises is also fine. He kind of flashbangs you with that absolute garbage take, so you can't even focus on the beginning of the sentence, which I also completely disagree with. I don't see the Odyssey as this out of left field, look what I can do move from Christopher Nolan. Hearing him talk about it, it's pretty clear that this is like the under narrative that has permeated all of his other movies. You can see its influence, especially in Interstellar, I think. And like I said in my video last year, for somebody who had such an iconic take on Batman, it's so cool that now he gets to make the primordial Batman archetype, the original warrior genius. It's also really interesting that Christopher Nolan has become famous for relying on non-linear storytelling in almost all of his movies, and The Odyssey is an extremely ancient example of non-linear storytelling. So contrary to what he says about Nolan not being the right man for the job, I kind of feel like this is a story he would be really good at telling. But for the Critical Drinker and other anti-woke critics of this movie, the problems go way deeper than just the movie. They even have an issue with the underlying translation that the movie is based on.
In this case, Christopher Nolan has publicly stated that he's a big fan of the 2017 adaptation of The Odyssey, which was translated from Greek by British writer Emily Wilson. Why exactly does that matter? Well, because Emily Wilson just so happens to be a hardcore progressive feminist who specifically set out to reimagine Homer's text through a female-coded, gender-critical, postmodernist lens. Because of course she did.
So a couple of things about this. First of all, Love the description of Emily Wilson as just a British writer.
British writer Emily Wilson.
She has a PhD in classics from Yale. She's a professor of classical studies who spent years working on her translation of the Odyssey. She even set herself the challenge, which nobody made her do, of translating the poem into the same number of lines of English iambic pentameter as there are original lines of Greek dactylic hexameter. So for no reason other than she just wanted to, she imposed this structural constraint on herself to make the rhythm of the poem flow the way that she wanted it to. Clearly, this is something that she has spent a lot of time thinking about. I tried to get a copy of her translation from my library, but every copy of the Emily Wilson translation was checked out. I guess it's a very popular time to be reading her translation. There were 3 copies of the Fagles translation right there, but no Emily Wilson. If you take the time to track down a copy of her translation, it's worth reading the 90-page introduction to the poem where she talks in great detail about the composition, history, and significance of the Odyssey. She really paints a picture of what was important to the original audience of the poem, what things the poem values, and what things it condemns. There is also a translator's note where she's pretty explicit about what her goals were in forming her translation. So is it actually from a gender critical lens? Is it really just turning the Odyssey into woke propaganda? In the translator's note, Emily Wilson talks about some areas where she felt like past translations did not do the original language justice. She talks about earlier translations being euphemistic about slavery, using words like servant or maid. In rendering the word as slave, she wants us to acknowledge a little bit of horror at a society that so easily takes slavery for granted. She does talk about doing away with sexism, but her focus is on scraping away layers of sexism imposed by earlier translators. So like, for example, at the end of the poem, there's a scene where the slave girls who slept with the suitors are hanged. Emily Wilson's translation does not include the derogatory descriptors like slut or whore that other translations attach to those women, because the original Greek does not label those women with any derogatory language. Once you see how devoted the translator is to accurately rendering the original words, the characterization of her as like twisting Homer or using his work to advance her feminist agenda becomes laughably uninformed.
Basically stretching the very limits of the original text to bend it around modern sensibilities. It's the same kind of creeping, cloying, well, I think what he really meant to say here was bullshit that gave us 2026's Animal Farm.
All translation is interpretation, drinker. By trying to render ideas from one language into another, you have to make decisions about which connotations and implications you're going to preserve. But you didn't care about any of that. You just blanketly declared that this was just some idiot progressive's attempt to shoehorn her political opinion into classic literature, with seemingly no research at all. This is the part of the video that took me from outrage to just rage, because the rest of this bullshit is going to get washed away once the movie comes out. But you saw a claim about how woke this person had made the Odyssey, and rather than do a little reading and find out for yourself, you just blindly regurgitated that claim to your 2.5 million follower fan base, because it agreed with the point of view you already wanted to hold. And now you scroll through the comments on this video and it's a little bubble full of people with an opinion about a piece of literature that none of them bothered to investigate for themselves. And that's weird. Isn't that exactly what you accuse the snowflake liberals of doing? Ultimately, I think the funniest critique in this video is this one.
Where are the larger-than-life mythical figures of legend that should be leaping from the pages of Homer's epic to amaze us all? It all feels weirdly subdued and underwhelming.
I mean, first of all, did we not see the animatronic Cyclops? Were your eyes closed when this giant in silver armor threw this man through a tree? Second, my brother. This is a trailer from a director who famously likes to hold back as much as he can so he doesn't ruin any surprises. I think you have to be pretty disingenuous to think that he just forgot to include any epic stuff in his mythological epic.
But the thing that stood out for me about the entire cast in this trailer was just how bland and mundane they all look and sound. Every time I saw one of them, all I thought was, oh yeah, there's Robert Pattinson, there's Charlize Theron, there's Tom Holland.
Yeah, good job, you recognized him. This is so funny to me because it's like, you haven't seen them act yet. You can literally do this for any trailer. You can watch any trailer and go, well, that's just Timothée Chalamet. Is he just gonna be Timothée Chalamet the whole time? This movie doesn't sound very good. I don't want to end this video on a negative note because I'm very excited for this movie. So here are my top 3 things about the Odyssey that I am excited for. Number 1, Ludwig Göransson's soundtrack. Ludwig Göransson is on a generational run of insanely high quality music right now. His music can make you go, man, this movie looks mediocre as hell. Oh, never mind. This will be a good movie now. That's the power of Ludwig Göransson. What we've gotten to hear in the trailers for this movie sounds so sick. Christopher Nolan just did this big interview with Time magazine where he talked about some of the ideas that he wanted to play with the soundtrack. soundtrack, because this story takes place at a time before string orchestras. So Ludwig Göransson went out and bought 35 bronze gongs and just started fucking around with those, threw some synths in there. I think the only string instrument is going to be a lyre, which is going to represent like the sound of Odysseus's bowstring. Tenet and Oppenheimer are two soundtracks that sound like nothing else you will ever hear. I'm so ready for another completely unique soundtrack. Number 2, Robert Pattinson villain performance. Speaking of generational runs, Robert Pattinson is kind of on a tear right now, but I've never seen him be the full antagonist of a movie. This movie and Dune Part 3, I'm very excited. Number 3, being able to hear the dialogue. The more Christopher Nolan has leaned into IMAX filmmaking, the more incredible his cinematography has become, but IMAX cameras are loud as shit. Matt Damon has said it's kind of like trying to act while someone holds a blender right next to your face. So you have to dub in audio after the fact, and it can sound kind of weird when it's mixed together with a soundtrack and everything else. For the Odyssey, Christopher Nolan had IMAX build this new enclosure system to reduce the noise so you can get usable audio even when you're shooting close-ups of your actors. Apparently it weighs like 400 pounds and they had to use helicopters to lift it up cliffs and shit. It's gonna be really exciting to see if he can fix one of the major consistent criticisms that his movies get. Number 4, Michael Caine. Now, some of you are saying, oh, he retired. He's not going to be in this movie. But remember, Christopher Nolan is dedicated to the magic trick, okay? Of course, Michael Caine had to say he was retired. Of course, he's not listed on the IMDb page for the movie. So that when you're least expecting it, rooting around through your collectible Anne Hathaway head popcorn bucket, that's when he strikes. Oh, what's that? Odysseus has to navigate between Charybdis and Scylla. He veers towards Scylla. We see the monster's head peer out from the rocks. And it's Michael Caine. There's no way he can face that. He pulls a hairpin U-turn, changes course for Charybdis. Oops, also Michael Caine. Cut to black, roll credits. All right, my blood pressure has returned to safe levels, so I am done here. If you liked hearing me geek out about Christopher Nolan movies, boy do I have the video for you. If you didn't, you can go ahead and make fun of me in the comments now. Bye.